This week, the FBI arrested a real estate brokerage owner on guns, drugs, and money laundering charges. Compass and Chicago's MLS are quietly building a private listing network behind every other agent's back. Powell is out at the Fed. Brian Buffini just stepped down. And we're talking about all of it. Welcome to my real estate show, Unfiltered. All right, well, let's kick this off. So the first topic that I was thinking we should discuss is the drug bust at S2 Real Estate Group. All right, this was on April 24th. So Sam Stair, owner of S2 Real Estate Group, was arrested on federal gun trafficking, drug trafficking, and money laundering charges. Per Inman, Stair allegedly rented homes and apartments to drug operators using the brokerage as cover. So this isn't a rogue agent story. We're talking about a brokerage owner.
This is a rogue brokerage.
Yeah, no shit. Here's the twist, though. The arrest dropped while every other brokerage CEO was busy defending their MLS strategy, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Nobody talks about how often real estate gets used as a money laundering pipeline because the industry trade groups can't stand the optics. And that's like, wow.
Yeah.
I thought art was good for money laundering.
Well, but I think also it plays right into the whole FinCEN regulations that were supposed to come out, and now they got blocked in court. But that was all about the money laundering. Now, the interesting thing I see about this is it sounds like this guy was using the brokerage to launder the money, which is a whole new spin on things. But let's face it, I mean, if you want to be a really good criminal, a real estate brokerage, especially a successful one, is a great one to funnel money through because you've got so many transactions running through and splits going each way, referrals going out the door. So I think when it comes to moving money, real estate brokerages, it's a great way to do it.
And what was his end game, though, with it? You're right. It is a great way to do it. So did he really think he would just get away with it forever? And if so, are real estate brokerage owners, is this an actual thing that like lots of real estate brokerage owners are getting away with?
Who knows? I think
everybody's so busy like auditing trust accounts.
Yeah. Well, and I think part of it too is for a long time we focused on so many other things in real estate where, like, let's face it, I think it would be really easy to launder money, especially with the way that, referrals and stuff go to other brokerages, and most of the time, like, the accountants or the people that are actually pushing the funds through are just doing what they're told on a commission demand or something. So, yeah, I mean, my criminal mind is going like crazy right now because I'm thinking of all sorts of options on how we can get some money to, So
this is exactly, the kinds of things that we cover on our other podcast, True Crime and Real Estate. We like to warn agents about, how to not get killed, how to not get thrown in jail, and maybe how to not kill anybody or get anyone else thrown in jail. But it's kind of riveting, though, Josh, in all seriousness, how much content we've been able to unearth for a specific niche of true crime and real estate.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's interesting, too, because, the real estate industry has been glamorized so much with, selling sunset and all this type of stuff. But when you really dig into it, like, it's a dirty industry when it comes to crime. I mean, and it's not, a lot of it is not fraud around real estate. It's other criminal enterprises that are like connected in some way, shape, or form. And, we've had drug trafficking. We've had major fraud type things that really
Ponzi scheme.
Like, yeah. And I don't know. I think it might come down to the fact of, let's face it, like, we have pretty weak standards in this industry. Pretty much if you can fog a mirror, you can get a real estate license. So I think that might be part of the problem is, we've relaxed the standards a little too much, I think.
And did you know that in some states you don't even have to pass a background check anymore? So
yeah.
They're like, why are all these agents like grabbing pill bottles, prescription meds out of their sellers' medicine cabinets. I have no idea why. I don't know. Maybe we stopped doing background checks. Like,
Yeah. Well, and then I think part of it too is I know there was a brokerage that I was at where they would do a background check, or the state did the background check. And so I asked the broker, do you do any like due diligence on your agents? He's like, nope. Like, why would I? They passed a state background check, passed fingerprints. But that's also part of the problem is we have such this pull towards numbers that for
yeah.
him, he just wanted to tout the biggest brokerage in the local market. He didn't care who was in his brokerage. He just needed the numbers. So why would he do any due diligence that might wash somebody out for, unethical behavior? It might not be legal even, but
I would say like the lesson behind this though is, it's interesting. Like you were just saying, brokers should make sure we do background checks on our agents. Even like, are there any open lawsuits? Are there, things that would put our brokerage in a bad light if we accepted this agent into our culture? But at the same time, compliance should not just be a checkbox. Like Holly and I built our brokerage around a clean structure, and we made sure that the industry is not going to police itself. So
no.
we made sure it's just, we have this set of standards that we hold agents to, which is the higher set of standards. I can't tell you how many agents I've interviewed that are like, I just want to be left alone. And I'm like, okay, like define left alone, because, we're not that hands-on, but we want your shit to be tight and right. But this would be, could you imagine this guy's agents? This is a very expensive way to find out who you've been hanging your license under.
Yeah.
They all have to change immediately. All their listings were probably shut down immediately.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and I feel bad for all his agents because, I'm sure at the very least they had a disruption.
And that's assuming he does have agents. Like some of these people, they just run like their one pop shop because they know their agents would flag some shit.
Yeah. So, yeah.
And we do have that whistleblower. I'm really proud that we did implement a whistleblower program where anybody at our brokerage can blow a whistle for fraud or anything that should be having the whistle blown on. And it doesn't even go, I don't even see it if they blow the whistle. It goes to a third party. So I think that's really important to have in place, because how much visibility do you really have on what's going on, especially if you're building out a national brokerage? Yeah. I can't be everywhere at once, right?
Yeah. Well, I think it all goes back to the fact too of we don't really have, for the longest time, we've been missing a central compliance point. For years, NAR was kind of the end all be all, and states just adopted the NAR policies to, and so some states you're looking at the regulations, you're like, wait a second. Yeah. There's a lot of gray area because let's face it, NAR was really there to protect consumers. That was kind of the rules that they made, but they weren't protecting anybody from money laundering, for example. So, I think it's one of those things that in a perfect world, they shouldn't have to, but we don't live in a perfect world. So, there's that.
Amen. All right. We ready to move on to the second topic?
I'm excited for this one.
All right. So let's talk about this private listing network war. So two major moves happened in 48 hours. Chicago's MLS, which is MRED, Midwest Real Estate Data, I believe is what it stands for. Don't quote me on it. They just opened its private listing network nationwide and signed Compass, the world's biggest brokerage, as the first brokerage to feed in its entire inventory into MRED. Then Compass filed to dismiss the Northwest MLS counterclaim, calling them a monopolist. Meanwhile, Bess Friedman, CEO of Brown Harris Stevens, dropped an opinion piece in Housing Wire calling out the entire private listing strategy, and they're demanding facts. So This is another example of what you were talking about where Compass really operates under the radar. They operate extremely quietly.
Yeah. Well, and once again, just like with their acquisition of Anywhere, nobody saw this coming.
Yeah.
And, it shocked everybody when the news was gone, which I think is funny because with all the talk with their CEO talking about a national listing network and all that type of stuff, why I don't understand why anybody was really surprised with this news. Um, I do think it's interesting that they decided to just go and partner with an existing MLS because I
That's
really thought what
that blew my mind. And that the existing MLS, which I think this MLS has a reach of like 50 to 80,000 agents already, just
yeah.
off the bat. The fact that this MLS was totally ready to play ball. But it's interesting because one of the associations in this MLS was who helped us out after that whole QCAR debacle. So I'm kind of surprised and also not surprised that they're the first ones to play ball.
Yeah. Well, and I think this is going to have a huge cascading effect on the industry because let's face it, think about what happened today because this was announced on Friday late afternoon.
Yeah.
But what
Again, that's
happened?
a really smart time to do it.
Once again, it is. It's the same exact time the Anywhere news broke. Um, but like, think about what happened to their membership Monday morning. Because let's face it, I think there was something. Didn't the Robert Refkin say that he was going to sponsor the first 100,000 Compass agents or something?
That's what I've heard, but I haven't seen it in writing. But I've heard it, which sounds, I mean, amazing. That's really smart of him to do,
Yeah.
if that's in fact real.
Well, and the other interesting thing too is if you are in charge of an MLS in a big market, you've got to be asking yourself, wait a second, how do we play ball? Because this is now nationwide. So there's nothing that stops an agent in Oregon from joining MRED and basically get national distribution, which we've already almost had when it comes to the public side of things. But now you have a private listing network that gets national recognition. And the more agents that are getting into this, which they're going to boost their numbers for sure. Now, I don't know if it's going to be by 100,000, but a lot of agents, first of all, I think are going to get the fear of missing out, and they're going to join just because they don't want to be left out. But the other thing about it too is if you go to a listing appointment and your sellers bring up a private listing network or something and you're not a member, you're going to look behind.
And I also want
Um,
to look up who exactly is Refkin paying for? His own agents or any agent that joins? Because it's like,
yeah,
hey, I'll sign all of our agents up. Like,
yeah,
let's do it.
yeah. So I think this is huge, and I am all for personally. I think we need to have a national MLS. It just makes sense. Canada does it, and the limited knowledge I know about it, their system works great. I was talking to an agent in Canada, and she loves it. She's on the western side of Canada in BC, but she's able to do a lot of referrals to the Toronto area. Part of it is she has a friend there, but she's like, it's great because as someone sending a referral, I can pull all the MLS data. I can really get everything so that when I send it over to that agent as a referral, I've got a nice put together packet that I'm like, this is what they looked at. This is what they're interested in. Here's their she's
That's
like, it's so easy,
amazing. That's like a queen of sending referrals. Wow, I've never had anything sent to me on a silver platter like that.
right? Well, and I think a lot of it is if you're not a member of the MLS you're sending it to, you don't have really that option.
Hmm.
So I think a nationwide MLS is good.
But see, this is talking about a private listing network, which you have Zillow, who, has already come out super against it. And I think this is to make sure that NAR and Zillow don't have a monopoly of the control of data. So
Yeah,
this is why I personally, if I had gun to my head, had to take a stance on this right now, I'm picking Refkin's side. I think what he's doing is, trailblazing out of the box, just like we are. And to me, I'm all about rebelling against whatever is trying to keep you down and try to keep control, like how Zillow was. They're like, fine, if you have your listing on any coming soon or private network that we're not aware of, we will not put your listing on Zillow. And basically, freezing out and scaring a bunch of people. And I think they've recently changed their stance on that because they realized how much that's going to fuck them. But it's very interesting.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's good because I think it's forcing competition, which I think is always good. I think that's one problem we've had right now is, let's face it, NAR, your associations, your MLSs, bad things can happen because there's no incentive for them to be better. Because the old school way of thinking was, well, nobody can come into our market and take the MLS from us, so we can do whatever we want. So there was no incentive to really provide any value to your consumers or your agents. So I think this will be good because it's going to force those MLS owners and association owners to go, we should probably play ball because we don't just want people to, my only real concern with this is what is Compass's intention with this?
Yeah, like who's benefiting? What's his end game? Like, is he gonna buy MRED one day? Is he gonna own MRED and then everybody has their fucking data in it? I don't know. It's and he's playing chess. He is playing chess 5 steps ahead.
Oh yeah. And he's very, very smart. He comes from private equity, so he understands how to play the business game. I think that's the big one is, what is his intention long term? I think there's a much bigger play that this is part of. I really thought that Compass was going to come out and create their own private listing network. That's kind of what I thought would happen. Yeah. I think this is genius. And the other part of this that I think is so genius is it's a private listing network for now. But how easy would it be when you start accumulating all this data and you start doing, once you have the data, you have the leverage. And so if MRED, let's say, right now you said MRED has 80,000 to 100,000 agents. How much leverage are they going to have when they get to 250,000 agents nationwide? And these agents have built a private listing network. It's only the flip of a switch before it's no longer a private listing network. And, that's when I think things get really interesting.
But there could be some, sort of agreement in place. We don't know what all this does entail and how our data is controlled. And so we definitely need more to follow on that. We definitely need to look into it. But it's just an incredible thing to follow. I mean, honestly, it's been quite the weekend for real estate news.
That's the truth.
If I'm calling you at 6 a.m. to be like, oh my God, Josh, check the news, that's insane because I don't do that usually.
Yeah, the missed phone call, I knew something was going on.
All right, let's cover down on Brian Buffini. Brian Buffini transitioned to chairman of Buffini and Company. Darren Dawson. There's no way I'd be able to work for a man that I can't pronounce his name, even though it's a normal name, but Darren Dawson, I would be like Darwin. I don't.
It's the combination of the first and the last name.
Exactly.
You need to change one of them.
Change your name, dude.
Yeah.
So he's the new CEO. And this is one of the, obviously we know Brian Buffini. This is one of the biggest names in real estate coaching, stepping back after he built the largest agent training operation in North America. This man can say that.
Yeah.
So Buffini's empire was built on community accountability and structured agent development. So it'll be interesting to see if that survives the CEO transition, because it was really his personality, just like Tom Ferry and it's him that is the whole network and is the whole coaching system. Even though he has his little mini coaches, he is the brand. So this will be very interesting to see how these next 5 years play out. If we can see how these agents get coached at scale.
Yeah. I'm curious because I think that's one of, if I had to say, I've done the Buffini program. And I do like it. I think it's great especially for new agents. But I think the one con that I would say to it is it's very outdated. They're really not using and leveraging technology in a way that I think you could to do a lot of the things. which I think is good in some ways because it forces agents to get personal with people and make contacts and do those type of things that you need to do. But I think there's a way we can leverage technology a lot more than they're doing. So I'm really curious to see with Buffini actually leaving, if the you know kind of the corporate coaching structure changes a little bit to really get people more into the technology side of Buffini. Because from what my understanding is Brian Buffini was kind of against that. He was kind of against the technology.
He's all about go on those pop buys and make it super personal.
Send your thank you notes and stuff, which I don't think are bad things at all. But I think it can be supplemented with a lot of technology, especially with the way free social media can get you a lot more exposure, a lot more reach. So I'm curious to see what is going to happen with their
how their standards change and things like that.
Yeah.
I want to kind of like transition a little bit and talk about coaching because you're super passionate about it. A lot of people pay for coaching and it's just, some Instagram hype man bullshit. I've had, a very bad taste put in my mouth from coaching because the only experiences I've ever had is productivity coaching or accountability coaching. Like, bitch, I hold myself accountable. I am very self-disciplined. If I don't need that. I don't need somebody being my mom. I need somebody to like help me design my whole plan in real estate or whatever it is, right? I need you to help me figure out what I'm supposed to commit to. What are your thoughts on coaching?
I think there are some very, very good real estate coaches out there. I think there are some more really bad real estate coaches. And when I say bad, I don't think it's that their information necessarily is bad, but I think it's a bad business decision for agents to hire people because they don't take into account, like, what does that do on the back end to your profits? And I was meeting with a client or potential client that she was looking at some consulting stuff. And for those of you guys that don't know, I do mostly lead generation consulting for large teams and brokerages around the country as well. But I don't really do solo agents. But I get a lot of solo agents that are calling me asking for, thinking that I'm like a coach. And that's not personally what I do. But I was talking to this one agent down in, I believe, South Carolina. And she had just been found a coach that basically was like, oh, I'm going to solve all your problems. I'm going to do this, that, and the other thing. And his fee was like, it was like $4,500 a month. And then he was like, and in order to be in his program, she had to purchase all these other things, one of them being a Zillow zip code. So, which he did not tell her any of the pricing or anything for all of these things. And so as soon as she told me this, I was like, well, what is he, so if you have to sign up for Zillow for your leads, what is he really providing you? And I would hope he would be giving good information on conversion and that type of stuff. But at the end of the day, it was going to cost her like an extra $14,000 a month to join his coaching program. And her average sales price in her market or her average commission was like $9,800. Like, she's in a very small market, not a lot of $1 million listings.
You're not even breaking even unless you're closing 2 deals a month.
And that's really what I told her. I said,
on just the coaching, let alone your business expenses.
Yeah. And to me, that's a giant red flag. Because this coach not once didn't ask her anything about her business and all those type of things. And he was like, oh yeah, you're going to close more deals and blah, blah, blah. Okay, but even if I close 2 more deals a month, I'm really just kind of paying for your coaching. So there's no difference between me hiring you and closing 3 deals a month or closing 1 on my own. And as a business, we all know the more expenses you have, the more leverage that you lose. So now she's hurting herself for those slower months. So I really have a big problem with the coaching industry from that standpoint. And it's because we're so focused on real estate coaching that we don't teach the business side of it. And
everybody just thinks that coaching is going to solve their problems. And I'll be honest, I really don't have respect for coaches or coaching. I think that word is way overused. There's no credentials out there. Like, basically, you either have a good reputation or not, but like, you can hype your own reputation. So nobody fucking knows anymore. I did have like a life-changing experience in 2021. where it was like just this weekend personal development, personal, it was like a personal development seminar. It was like a weekend long. And I remember the facilitator asking me how much I thought I could make in a month. And back then I was like, you know, he was like, if you're operating at like your full capacity, how much do you think you can make in a month? And I told him $40,000, which to me back then was reaching for the stars. Now it's like, wow, I only said 40 grand for 1 month. Like that's laughable. But he goes, you already know what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And we all, unless you're a brand new agent, just getting your feet wet, figuring out your CRM or whatever. But even then, your instincts are like, when I looked back to being a brand new agent, I Facebook messaged every single one of my friends and was like, I need your address for my CRM and you're going to be selling your house this year, whether you like it or not. Ha ha ha. Like I knew what I had to do. Like we all know what we have to do. And he's like, and every day you wake up and you don't do it, it's like you're writing a check and like throwing it out the window. And that was just super impactful to me, was that we don't need a brilliant answer out there. We fucking know what we need to do and we already have the tools at our disposal.
Well, and here's my question to bring this back to real estate is, so you went to a weekend seminar, and in that weekend seminar, you got a great piece of advice that maybe took 5 minutes, right? Why in the world are brokerages not just telling agents that? Instead, we're going, oh, you're a new agent, so join my brokerage and then go hire this coach. Mm-hmm. Like, that's the part of it to me too about the coaching thing that I just do not like is that's the Band-Aid for everything. Oh, you're struggling, you need to hire a coach. It's not like, hey, let's work together to see what we can figure out before you take that step. I think if you have a very defined goal of what you want to do, for example, like one of the things I focus on with consulting is, building lead generation systems that are scalable to scale the business that you want. It's a very specific thing that I do. I don't just go in and say, I'm going to change your business and revolutionize it. No, like I have a very specific goal in mind that I'm going to go in and I'm going to fix these things in your business. And that's where, like, I think we fall off the bus because we have way too many just general coaches. And what I see a lot of them are like, just go hire these third-party companies and then I'll teach you how to talk to people. And I think it falls in what you said. I think we all know what we need to do. And we have everybody in this world has thousands of leads. Like you have leads at the grocery store, some of the best advice I've ever got on lead generation are all free things you can do for free.
And I would say you don't need a coach, especially at our brokerage. You don't need a coach until I see you at every training session every day. You're already like maxed out in, how you're operating with your CRM, everything that we teach you. If you're like maxed out and you're killing it and stuff, maybe it's time to level up at that point. But I feel like these coaching systems, all they do is like prey on the weak.
Yeah.
Prey on the weak.
Well, and I this is not a scientific study, so don't hold me to it. But talking to agents, basically what I figured out is anytime I talk to an agent who's done any of the coaching programs, I'll ask them, how long did you stay after your contract was up? And normally it's like, I canceled as soon as my contract was up.
And usually they're pissed too. They're like, I couldn't wait to get out of my contract.
Yeah. And with the bigger ones, normally the spiel goes like this. Yeah, I started. My first coach sucks, so I got a second one. He wasn't very good, so I got a third one. That didn't really work out. We didn't match. So I got a fourth one who was okay, but then my contract was up and I just canceled the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, let's take this to the real estate world. With if every one of your clients that you work with never came back to you for repeat business, wouldn't you start asking yourself, do we have a problem with our program? But yet it seemed just like these coaching, especially the bigger coaching programs, they don't care. They're just like, we're going to turn and burn, and we're just going to fill new agents because let's face it, there's new agents coming into the business all the time. And especially if you have brokerages that are like, hey, the first brokerage I was at was very pro Brian Buffini. And I will give them credit. They did, get a discount for their agents if you wanted to join his coaching program, and they had some incentives. But at the end of the day, they really pushed that. And that's where I'm like, as a new agent or even an experienced agent, I think you really need to look at that. And I tell people the number one question that I ask, that when someone says, hey, I want to hire a coach, what should I look for? I said the first question you should ask that coach when you interview them is, how does your fee affect my profitability? And if they can't explain that to you, they're not a good business coach. They might be a great real estate coach. They might know how to do, but if they can't explain to you how their fee is going to affect your profitability, and it can't just be like, well, it's going to make it go down because I charge a lot. Like, no, like they need to be able to explain that to you, because if they can't, like they're trying to teach you how to run a business, like not just be salespeople. And we all know those agents that sell, 20, 30 homes a year as a solo agent and are still like, I don't have any money. They're like, I got to pay my dues and I don't have any. You're like, well, it's not because you're a bad agent. It's because you're a bad business person. And so, but then those people go hire a coach that doesn't fix the business side of things. You're not really doing anything.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's a great place to end it. That's it for today's show. Just to recap, we've got a brokerage owner in federal custody. The MLS war is no longer cold. Couple things we didn't get a chance to talk about. Powell is out and the housing market is bracing for whoever the Senate confirms next, and buyers are still buying. We're going to keep telling you what is actually happening unfiltered. So hit follow, hit subscribe, and we'll see you tomorrow.
See y'all later.